Welcome to the City Council meeting. We've just had a budget work session and now we're having the regular City Council meeting. If everyone could just take a moment to silence your cell phones. And please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have 3 proclamations on our agenda tonight, but first a couple of comments. One is that Sarah, who is here, Twilliger, are you also an interim? No, I'm just kidding. She is sitting in for the city clerk. She just received her certified municipal clerk designation. So congratulations. From an institute called the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. Now you know there is such a thing. So congratulations. Maggie wrote 2 years for this accomplishment. I think that's how long it takes. Wow, that's a long time. The others tonight is Robin Curran, our city attorney's last city council with us, which I don't know if it's more sorrowful for us or for you. Robin is going, it's for us, actually, for sure. She is going on to become the city attorney for Raleigh, so that's quite a compliment to your skills. We want to thank you for all your contributions to the city and to the people of the city of Asheville. We are really going to miss you. I hope you watch our city council meetings on TV.
You have nothing else
They're
to do.
on alternating Tuesdays.
Yeah, so you could. Right. So Sabrina Rockoff is here, who has just been named the interim city attorney, and so she's literally shadowing Robin tonight. So thanks everyone for working with us on this transition, and it's been pretty smooth. We've been working with Sabrina for a while, so it feels pretty seamless.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Robin. You've done great work for the city, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Our first proclamation tonight is Energy Efficiency Day. I didn't hand this out, but Julie stole it from me, and which is very appropriate. If there's anyone here regarding this proclamation, please feel free to come forward. I have Sam
Marquistas.
What? Oh, okay. I got you. Hi,
Is this
there.
on?
You're standing very far away from him, so I don't know how this
Shall we get
camera will
together?
get you. Okay. Well, there's just, you got to be in a camera shot.
Okay.
Dan, blink at us if this looks right. Okay.
Okay, so I think I'll read this in a second. Folks may know that the city's been doing a whole lot around energy for the last couple of years. This resolution talks about some of that. Sam is going to talk a little bit about that. Just want to mention that this is Energy Efficiency Day, which is so not nearly as sexy as things like solar and wind and things like that. But it is the cheapest energy that we have. It is the thing that we have to do first. It's the thing that we need to invest in before we start investing in the sexy things like solar. So it's hugely important, even though again not very exciting. So. Whereas on October 23rd, 2013, the Asheville City Council adopted Resolution 13228, supporting a clean energy economy for the city and for the region. And whereas on October 27th, 2015, Asheville City Council adopted Resolution 15-200, approving the Community Clean Energy Policy Framework, supporting continued sustainability efforts, including carbon footprint reductions and clean energy economy through a clean energy partnership with Duke Energy. And whereas on March 22nd, 2016, Asheville City Council adopted Resolution 16-64, establishing a joint task force known as the Energy Innovation Task Force that is committed to working to delay or avoid the construction of an additional fossil fuel-powered combustion turbine electricity generating facility at the Asheville plant site in 2023. Whereas energy efficiency is the art of getting the same or better performance using less energy, all while cutting utility bills for residential, business, and industrial customers. And whereas reliable, affordable energy is vital to our economic prosperity, and energy efficiency is the most productive and cost-effective way to meet our energy needs, and implementing clean energy policies and programs helps boost economic opportunities and job creation while continuing to move toward a sustainable future. And whereas cutting energy waste saves U.S. consumers billions of dollars on their utility bills annually, up to $500 per household from appliance efficiency standards alone. And whereas more than 2.2 million Americans work in the energy efficiency sector in local, good-paying, clean energy jobs that cannot be outsourced, and increasing efficiency will create more of them, and smarter energy use reduces the amount of electricity we need to power our lives, which helps avoid power plant emissions that can harm our health, pollute our air, and warm our climate. And whereas a nationwide network of energy efficiency groups and partners has designated October 5th as the nation's second annual Energy Efficiency Day, and together the residents of Asheville can continue to contribute to our sustainability efforts by learning more about energy efficiency and practicing smarter energy use in their daily lives. Now, therefore, I, Esther E. Mannheimer, Mayor of the City of Asheville, do hereby proclaim October 5th, 2018 as Energy Efficiency Day in Asheville, North Carolina, and urge citizens to join us in supporting our clean energy goals and moving toward a more energy efficient, more toward energy efficiency now and in the future. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Julie. And my name is Sam Ruarkistis, and I'm the Executive Director for a local nonprofit called Green Built Alliance. And we have been collaborating with the city and the county and local businesses and nonprofits to do energy efficiency work in the community. And so we're asking everyone to improve their homes and businesses to reduce energy costs and lower your carbon footprint. We do have a grant available right now that offers free energy efficiency assessments and upgrades for income qualified families. We go through BlueHorizonsProject.com, or you can look at Green Built Alliance if you want more information about that. But we are out there every week improving at least 5 homes with weatherization and energy efficiency work. And we're doing a lot of work in collaboration right now with the city on this community-wide campaign to really reach out to businesses and homes to educate everyone about what we can do to become more energy efficient. So I really appreciate the city's leadership, and Julie, and also Duke Energy is a part of this as well, and really helping us in this effort. So, and the City Sustainability Office has been a real true leader in this endeavor too. So thank you so much for this proclamation.
The next proclamation we have tonight is Fire Prevention Week. And if anyone's here for Fire Prevention Week, please come forward.
Well, this is particularly near and dear to my heart. I used to be the president of the First Alert company that makes smoke alarm, carbon monoxide detectors.
And
So-
bad commercials.
What?
And bad commercials, but
And
yeah.
bad commercials. Okay. Whereas the city of Asheville, North Carolina is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Asheville. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at the greatest risk from fire. And whereas home fires killed 2,735 people in the United States in 2016, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 352,000 home fires. And whereas the majority of U.S. fire deaths, 4 out of 5, occur at home each year. And whereas Asheville's residents should identify places in their home where fires can start and eliminate those hazards, install working smoke alarms, and plan and practice a home fire escape plan. And whereas Asheville's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the 2018 Fire Prevention Week theme, Look, Listen, Learn, Be Aware, Fire Can Happen Anywhere, effectively serves to remind us that we need to take personal steps to increase our safety from fire. Therefore, I, Esther E. Mannheimer of Asheville, do hereby proclaim October 7th through the 13th, 2018 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this city, and I urge all the people of Asheville to support the many public safety activities and efforts of Asheville's fire and emergency services during Fire Prevention Week 2018.
So there's flyers at the front desk about a kickoff event for Fire Prevention Month and Week. It's free to the public, and please come out, bring friends and neighbors. It's this Saturday, the 29th, at the Asheville Outlets. We'll see you there.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, and the final proclamation is a proclamation against gun violence in Asheville. And I know there are a number of folks that are here regarding this proclamation, so anyone who wants to, feel free to come forward and I'll come down there as well. Yep, feel free to come down. I'll read the proclamation first. Whereas in 2018, gun violence has claimed the lives of over 10,000 people in the United States, including 9 in Asheville. And whereas 3 of these deaths in Asheville were of children, including 12-year-old Derek Lee Jr., who was shot and killed the night of July 1st. And whereas the killing and terrorizing of children by gun violence in our community is unacceptable and must stop now. And whereas the solution to gun violence requires communities, schools, law enforcement, and community leaders to work closely together to address systemic issues. Now therefore I, Esther E. Mannheimer, and the City Council calls upon ourselves, our communities, our schools, law enforcement, and our community leaders to resolve to address gun violence and the issues underlying it so that no more of our children are killed. This is a proclamation against gun violence, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused to seal the city of Asheville, North Carolina, to be affixed this, the 25th day of September 2018. And we have here with us the relatives and friends of Derek Lee Jr., and if anybody wants to say a few words, they can. I don't want to call you on the spot.
On behalf of the family of Derek Lee Jr., we thank the mayor and we thank the city council for all that you have done, and we thank you for the proclamation. And we think by doing this that will make more people aware of the situation that we have in our neighborhood. And we have with us Mr. Jack Logan on behalf of the Put the Gun Down organization.
To the mayor, the council members, first we want to thank y'all for naming this day in honor of Derek Lee Jr. Y'all answered the calling, and I hope in the future there will not be any more gun violence in the city of Asheville. I cannot say anything but thank y'all for what y'all have done for this great family, the parents, the fathers, the grandparents, and to this police department here, they've stepped up to the plate. I've heard criticism of them, but I can't find any fault in them. And I want to thank them for answering the call. Throughout Buncombe County, they've done so. But again, I want to thank the Tobers for being the grandparents that they were, and these parents have been the great parents that they are. And also Reverend Ray and all the friends who are here supporting this day. But again, I want to turn my attention back to this council for doing this today. I thank you very much.
And also thank you to all of you who came for this proclamation, to all the friends and family for being here tonight. Thank you very much. Yeah. Folks, if you came for the proclamations, this is probably a great time for you to make your quick exit if you want to. Now we're going to get into the consent agenda and all the other items on the agenda. Again, thank you so much for coming down tonight.
Look at this. Sweet. Sure.
Or you use the regular microphone right there, it's fine.
And also, we don't want to overlook the Rotary Club for all that they have done for us and everyone else. We thank you for doing what you did for us. Thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that. There are
Thank you.
representatives of the Rotary Club here tonight, and we appreciate them being here and helping the family as well. If there are, I don't know that we have anybody in the overflow room, but if there are folks out in the hall who are waiting to come in, we now have some seats available. Maybe we can open the side door. No. Okay, folks, we have the consent agenda here. Do I have questions, comments, a motion?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there anyone wishing to comment on the motion to approve the consent agenda? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we've adopted the consent agenda. We have two reports tonight. Only one will be given in person. The other one is available online. I think that's what that means.
Yes,
Report
that's
only, yes. So this item is action items from 21st Century Policing Solutions report. And our chief is here, Tammy Hooper, to talk to us about this. This is a follow-up to our recent meeting where we heard the consultants' findings and recommendations with 21st Century CP Solutions report, Community Policing report, and we asked for the chief to let us know of the items that were recommended, what's been done, what still needs to be done, what are some, or if there's anything that we're not doing for some reason.
Okay, good evening.
Thank
How are
you.
we doing? So, as Mayor says, I'm here to just do a follow-up on the presentation that you got last month. Technical assistance is required apparently for me. I also want to say that, that having an assessment by policy experts to show us not really just how we did in regard to responding to this incident, but where our gaps and blind spots were in our policies that enabled it to occur to begin with, is where I think we have the most room to improve how we do things. Obviously, we don't want anything to ever happen like that again. So looking at the first recommendation, hey, look at that, it worked. For the police department, talked about revising the FTO selection and recruitment process, and then there was a related one for officers returning to patrol from another assignment to be reassessed prior to resuming their field training duties. With regard to this, the police department had already started a review and a revision of our field training process prior to this assessment. That has been completed and implemented. It now includes the recommended revisions by 21CP, and basically we've sort of overhauled the entire process. We also have enhanced our application and selection process, and we've also trained all of our field training officers with what those changes are. So this is already being employed, this new revised policy and training manual with the current class of officers that we have in field training right now. And that policy is available on our website for anyone who wants to review it. The second recommendation, or the third, whichever one, APD should routinely assess its early intervention system triggers, adjusting when necessary. So the early intervention system is something that we've had in place for quite a number of years, since before I was here. That's a policy in which we seek to, basically we have triggers where when an officer is identified as having some problematic behavior or behavior that we feel like we need to pay closer attention to, we get automatically notified that that happens, and then we're able to make interventions with that employee in a proactive, sort of non-disciplinary way. to see if we can improve their performance with regard to whatever their issues are. When we looked at this and we revised it based on this assessment, what we did was we lowered the thresholds that triggered this program. So I think it was up to, like, they had to have originally maybe 6 different things like uses of force or citizen complaints and things like that to trigger it. Now it's been reduced to 3 within a year, and it automatically triggers this. And just, so any 3 uses of force, even if they're totally fine within policy, we want to take a review of that to see what this officer is doing, that maybe they're getting into more use of force situations than other people. Also, clearly, if there are citizen complaints that are regularly coming in or internal complaints going on with an officer, we want to have a heads up that maybe we need to take a closer look. Some of the things that we can do with that then are we can put that person on a work plan. We can hold them to a little bit tighter or a lot tighter supervision depending on the case. And one of the things that we specifically added here, and I'll mention this again later with a later recommendation, is that we added the ability to include a review of their body-worn camera, an enhanced review of their body-worn camera video as part of this program. So this would include, for example, actual supervisory review of all of their video every day. It could go all the way up to that, not just for random audits or a couple calls a week or a couple calls a month. It could go all the way up to total review. So we added that in there. The other thing that's now part of this is to ensure that if an officer is under early intervention, that if they move from one assignment to another assignment, that there's a mechanism to track that to ensure that whatever we're doing with them in the early intervention system goes with them to their new assignment. The adoption of a peer intervention program, the assessors talk a lot about this and about the EPIC training. Ethical Police is courageous. We don't have dates on this yet. We have had some contact with New Orleans Police Department to try to get this set up, and I've also heard from 21CP that they're also trying to help us to help facilitate us getting our trainers in this. I would probably assume that we will be able to get hopefully into this by early next year. But I'm hoping we can get our trainers actually trained before the end of this year. That's my goal. So if they're doing a program, hopefully we can get some people in and then set this up for the entire department. This would be a training that everybody would have to go through.
So Chief Hooper, I don't, just to emphasize this, I thought this was a really interesting recommendation. So this is the idea of training officers to be able to intervene with a fellow officer if they see something going wrong. And as I understand it, there's limited availability to get into one of these training programs. That's the reason for the delay. But another option is to get some of our folks trained who can then come back and administer the training.
Right, and that's what we're trying to do.
Right.
If we can get
and that'll be faster.
3 trainers, we already have their lesson plans. And so once we get 3 trainers that are trained up, they can come back and bring that to the entire department. That's what we did with ICAT, with the de-escalation training. Mm-hmm. We sent 3 officers to go be trainers of it. And they brought that back, developed in the lesson plan for our department, and gave all of that training to all of our people. So we are looking to do the same thing with this, and that'll accelerate our ability to get all the officers through that training.
Excuse me, under that program, it said that there was potential collaboration with community partners. What does that look like?
In that program, I'm not aware that I don't know how the community partners do
EPIC,
that.
yes, I read.
I mean, I think that they definitely had input from community partners in developing that training, and I don't know what role that could be here, but if there's a role for that, we would certainly include that in our training as well.
In the attachment to the City Council agenda, it says EPIC is a peer intervention program developed by the NOPD, which is the New Orleans Police Department, in collaboration with community partners. I don't know if that's how it was developed, that it was developed in collaboration with community partners. I assume
I'm sure that was part of it.
Comma situation in this.
Yes. So the next one, it talks about notifying EMS of medical treatment requirements. That's already in our policy, and this is very specific to the number of times that a taser is used in an incident. So the officer or supervisor are supposed to notify EMS if it's more than 3 cycles of the taser is used, and that did not happen in the case with Officer Hickman. So We've reminded all of our supervisors of this necessity of this. It already exists in our use of force policy. It's not a new thing. It's a thing that didn't happen that should have. More structured policy regarding body-worn camera audits, and so we talked about this a little bit under early intervention. We do have auditing requirements that from both our technology section, our supervisors who have to do audits of every officer that works for them on a monthly basis. We have also the professional standards as an annual review, like random review of body-worn camera, and now we're adding to that the possibility if officers have problematic behavior of enhancing the review of those specific officer video up to and including review of all video every day.
And didn't you earlier this year already commit to every use of force incident would be, or there was some change that you made, I thought, in body-worn camera review right after the incident. Am I making that up?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember.
I mean,
anyway, I thought there was some, maybe you just said there would be, again, this enhanced review. Maybe this is the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, the review is important, and we definitely want to enhance our ability, especially if we have officers who have problematic behavior, to do a more thorough review and supervision of those officers. So that's been added both to the body-worn camera policy as well as the early intervention. It says, talks about prioritizing timely release of information, response to release of information. So our PIO is working on this with CAPE. And what we've been talking about is the opportunity to use this as a mechanism to get public input, community input on how we can maybe improve how we're communicating with members of the public. And so I know that our PIO, Christina, and I have met with some folks in the community already to talk about ideas and ways in which they would recommend, but more recently, I think what we want to do is a larger public platform to get input on how we can improve our communication with the community. So we're trying to work out what is the right mechanism for doing that. Like, how do we solicit that and then get it back into some, actionable recommendations? So that's what we're working on right now with regard to enhancing that. Talks about the next recommendation, consider developing a policy and training for appropriate engagement with community members on social media. Particularly with regard to police events. We have now developed and implemented a social media policy in the police department, so that's been completed. And the policies, again, are on our website. People want to review them. So those are all of the police department recommendations, or ones that are applied within our control to implement. Pretty much we've done all of those things with the exception of the EPIC training, which we're trying really hard to get that going, and also an ongoing process with the release of information and how we can be better communicators. So that's all that I have to report on this. If anybody has any other questions.
Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question that's, it's actually an issue that's addressed in the other memo, the other report, but the first item in that report is third-party review, let's see, blah, 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 recommendation around investigating use of force complaints. And have you already made the policy change that the SBI will be notified anytime there's a use of force incident?
The SBI will not be notified every time there's a use of force incident.
Again, maybe I'm making this up, but
what we did, and
Yeah.
we did put in our policy right after this happened, was that we would review all complaints of excessive force
Excessive.
from a criminal perspective.
That's it.
Prior to initiating any type of internal or administrative investigations or actions.
Okay.
And in addition to that, Todd Williams, our DA, has authored a document that helps sort of lay out a process for this, and John Maddox from the City Attorney's Office and I have been working in collaboration with him to get the final product, so it will lay out, and it doesn't just apply to excessive force complaints, but also to other conduct issues around officers that may affect the prosecution and what they have to divulge to defense attorneys, and also the process around initiating the SBI for excessive force cases, in addition to the things that we were already doing before. So in other words, our lethal force case was automatic. Now we will have an enhanced mechanism to get them on either any type of criminal situation or potential criminal situation, as well as for excessive force complaints.
Okay,
So
great.
that's happening. We should be signing off on that pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, just one more, and again, just Chief, to kind of put sort of a fine point on this, so is it a fair statement to say that for all the recommendations that 21CP made, APD has either adopted them or is in the process of adopting them as it relates to the police department?
Yes.
Any other questions? All right. Okay, thank you.
Mayor, there was one recommendation related to the Civil Service Board and streamlining that process. And just so you know, we are continuing to work with legal to differentiate what takes legislative action and what we can affect
What you
change.
can do in-house.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll report back on that at some point in the near future.
Right, Dowa Hitch, Communication and Public Engagement Director, and I'm going to talk about the recommendations from the policy that relate to overall city government and actions that have been taken on those. And one thing that's not mentioned in this presentation, there was a recommendation that had to do with the reporting structure for the police department's PIO. We haven't started those discussions yet, so I'm not covering that in this action, but our intention is certainly to talk about what the best path for Asheville to take in that direction will be. A lot of the recommendations that had to do with the city as a whole organization had to do with communication. So I wanted to share that the recommendation to provide protocols for when different people are notified of high-profile events is something that has been prioritized in our work plan. So with the internal communication work that our department does, we've prioritized that, and that will be, we haven't created the timeline yet for that, but that is something that's in our current work plan. So you can know that that will happen within the next 6 to 8 months, hopefully faster than that. I just don't want to overpromise. Develop clear notification procedures to inform individuals on city council about high-profile issues. All of these are kind of in the same vein. And our intention there is to, again, have clear communication from all the different people that have different parts of information when something high-profile happens, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are as transparent as we can be and that people are as informed as they can be and that we respect any confidentiality. So the first step in that is our department will be doing a SWOT analysis. So we'll be looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and that'll give us a deep dive in the organization about where there could be opportunities, where we have weaknesses, and that is something that we'll pass on to somebody that we bring in to do that final report, the final standard operating procedures. And within those, there will be clear guidelines for who's responsible for what, who's got final decision-making powers when it comes to the release of press releases, just so everybody's very clear about who's doing what and when, so that we can best serve our community's needs for being informed. So again, this third one for the greater organization, again, has to do with that crisis communication policy, and that will, again, we'll start the work with that same SWOT analysis, and then the outcome is going to be the standards and procedures, where we're clear about who's doing what those responsibilities are, and where that decision-making authority lies before information is released. And then the last recommendation was for the city to consider retaining a firm to provide crisis response services. And that is something that we're currently talking about as a priority and a need in this upcoming budget process. So that would be budget year 2019-2020. So that'll go into the mix of all the other priorities we have as a city, and will continue to be part of the conversation. What that recommendation suggests or speaks to is the capacity that we have to manage a crisis and the constant rumor control, social media monitoring, those kinds of things that can really help get information out faster with other demands for the day-to-day operations of the city.
couple questions. Sorry. So I first want to say thanks to Chief Hooper. You've jumped on all of the things on your list, and that's great. I appreciate that. And for the rest of these recommendations, I just want to, obviously, I want us to be thoughtful as a city and as an administration, but I also don't want us to overthink it. You know, we had a crisis. We learned a lot of things that were wrong, and I think there is a lot of process here, and I repeatedly say I'm a process person. I think that's important, but I also think it's important for us to get this in place pretty quickly. And you know, I would just encourage us to be efficient and take advantage of what we know from the experience that we had earlier this year to fix this process. It doesn't seem like rocket science to me.
If this helps answer that question and that concern, those templates for different kinds of things are already in place. So maybe I didn't do a good job of explaining that there are things that are already in action that would help if we find ourselves in certain unfortunate situations, so that everybody ahead of time is clear about who our community resources are, who we can share factual information with so that they can spread through their networks, those types of things. Those are already in place, and the chief spoke a little bit to that with those templates. This is for the bigger, grander, how does council, city manager's office, department directors all work together, the one that will take a little bit longer. And the SWOT analysis is something staff can do quickly. It'll just be funding and how do we prioritize certain current projects, or if we need to move something off the table.
Well, I'm glad to hear we're coming together on something like that. And then maybe we want to practice.
Not
because practicing live and in action is not a preferred method.
No.
Julie, how many more? Did you have any more?
I had some questions about the second presentation. It sounds like we're not getting a.
No, that is only attached to the agenda.
Okay, I still may ask some questions about it, but you go ahead if it's about this.
And Dava, this is for you. Am I correct in understanding for the first one here, the implement the crisis communication policy within the city council, that will also include recommendations for how we should conduct ourselves during that as well?
That is the intention, that there will be roles and responsibilities, clear definitions of council, staff, the city attorney's office.
And would that also include recommendations in terms of what council, should share and shouldn't share and those sorts of things? Is it going to get to that level, do you foresee, or is it really more the rules?
Probably conceptually, right?
Because it'll be dependent on, hopefully we won't have to do this, but it'll be dependent on the topic. I think the issue more that they were identifying that we struggle with is how do you have a rapid, concise response in the face of an emergency? And even though we responded to it, by the next day they say that is too long.
Right.
You need to have a plan ready to go so that you're responding to the public within hours, if not minutes. And so we just need to have a structure down for that to happen that includes council.
Yeah, and I see it more like our standard operating procedures if we have a City of Asheville major event, and that is real clear. If something happens with 3 or more departments, we all know what to do. There's expectations about who's getting who together, and you make yourself available, those kinds of things, and then how quickly information is released. So I really see it in that realm, that it's just a standard operating procedure that everyone's clear about. And it's complex, so having that written down I think will be helpful.
Thank you.
All right,
Does anybody else have any questions under this presentation? Okay, so we have, like we said, one other presentation that is just a hyperlink only. Did you want to?
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions. It's not.
So this item is an update on equity and transparency items from our March 20th work session.
Yeah, and so one of the things in here was creating the Human Relations Commission and whether that commission could be helpful in reviewing body cam video and that sort of thing. We know the answer to that legally is no, and this is a question for my memory. We couldn't get a sponsor for the legislation to change that, right? That was one of our legislative priorities, was to get a change for that, but we couldn't. Was that the one that we couldn't get a sponsor to do
Right.
that? Okay, so that's just still out there. We've tried and not been able to
You
move
can't get your bill
it.
sponsored.
You
don't
can't get a
have
bill sponsored. You can't go anywhere, right? And then the other question, Peggy, maybe you can answer this, is personnel policy changes that I know you came and reported to the Finance and Human Relations Committee, Human Resources Committee several months ago that those were underway, and I guess I had sort of assumed that they would be wrapped up, but they don't seem to be. So where are we on that?
They are not wrapped up. There were some legal concerns from the legal department on some of the changes we were recommending as it related to the Civil Service Board. And there are changes that it's not clear whether we can make those. However, there is a requirement on the part of the board to adopt their rules, and they are intending to address that at their meeting this month, in October. And when those are recommended by the Civil Service Board, they will come to council to approve those. And the hope is that some of those rules will address some of the issues that we have, that we find ourselves in related to the Civil Service Board and the ability for people to move swiftly when these kinds of things happen.
Okay. All right.
And
So
sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. This is an important point, I think, for the public to understand that what we learned in this crisis is that our own policies really prevented us from doing what we might otherwise have wanted to do, or certainly what the public expected the city to be able to do. Right. And it's been a process of trying to fix this, and we keep running into blocks that it looks like we're trying to work through. So yes. We're thinking in October, the Civil Service Board rules and the personnel policy changes can come together, maybe, or...
The ones that directly affect the Civil Service Board, yes, ma'am. We should be able to bring those to, and again, I'm adding the caveat to the extent that we can affect a change without the legislation.
Right.
We'll make those changes.
Of course. Okay, great, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions on that one? Okay. That concludes our presentations and reports. We don't have any public hearings tonight, but we have, under new business, a resolution adopting the Burton Street Neighborhood Plan, and Todd Okolachaney, our planning director, who is not an interim director, he's actually a director, will handle this one.
You stole my joke. As a permanent director, that's okay. Next time. Good evening. I'm happy to be here tonight to introduce Simone Robinson from Public Participation Partners. Simone and her firm were the prime consultants for the Burton Street Neighborhood Plan, and they were hired by North Carolina Department of Transportation over a year ago to work on this plan. As part of the I-26 connector project to help develop some mitigation strategies for the neighborhood. And then over a year ago, when city staff looked at this opportunity, we really saw a great opportunity to kind of expand this mitigation plan and actually create a neighborhood plan that aligned with the new Living Asheville comp plan. And we were happy that NCDOT was able to hire Simone and her firm to work with the community on this neighborhood plan. And I know that there's also a number of neighborhood residents here tonight that want to speak on behalf of the plan as well. I just want to thank them for all their time and effort over the last 10 months. But with that, I'd like to introduce again Simone Robinson from Public Participation Partners.
Good evening. My name is Simone Robinson of Public Participation Partners, and I'm here to present to you the Burton Street Neighborhood Plan. First, I will give you a brief overview of the Neighborhood and Mitigation Strategies Plan project, how the plan was developed, provide an overview of the final neighborhood plan, and then address any questions you may have. So, as Todd just mentioned, over the course of the I-26 project planning process, NCDOT met with Burton Street residents to discuss and develop ways to minimize and mitigate the I-26 connector impacts. So the Burton Street Neighborhood and Mitigation Strategies project was established to address the anticipated I-26 connector impacts to the Burton Street community, and to also provide those residents with an opportunity to be involved in the mitigation planning process. And also, as Todd just stated, in an effort to ensure that there would be a Burton Street neighborhood plan included in your comprehensive plan update, the Planning and Design Department requested that a neighborhood planning component be included in DOT's mitigation planning process. So since the project's inception in 2017, 3 community and 1 stakeholder group meetings were held to obtain feedback from the Burton Street neighborhood residents, businesses, and community organizations to determine what their priorities and concerns were regarding the I-26 connector impacts. Based on that community feedback provided, the Burton Street community open houses, stakeholder group meetings, and online surveys, a neighborhood vision, plan themes, and community goals and strategies were developed. These components serve as the framework of the Burton Street Neighborhood Plan. And additionally, this plan was developed in accordance with NCDOT policies and procedures, as well as the National Environmental Policy Act process. So the Burton Street Neighborhood Plan was developed by the Burton Street Community Association in partnership with NCDOT and the City of Asheville to address the potential impacts resulting from the I-26 connector project, to address the current community concerns of the neighborhood, enhance the quality of life of the Burton Street community, and to preserve the strong sense of community among Burton Street residents. The Burton Street Neighborhood Plan is comprised of the following components: a project background, plan development process overview, a neighborhood overview including its history, existing conditions, community resources, as well as demographic data. It has 2 themes. The first one is the livable built environment, which includes 6 goals and 15 strategies addressing infrastructure needs and improvements. And the second, a healthy community, and encompasses 6 goals and 12 strategies that address community resource improvements, affordable housing, and measures to increase community safety. This section that deals with the themes, goals, and strategies also includes an analysis of how the plan's goals and strategies align with the recently adopted Living Asheville Comprehensive Plan. And the plan also includes a section dedicated specifically to NCDOT's mitigation and plan implementation. Oops. Okay, so one of the slides is missing, I apologize. So the implementation chapter includes a list of all the plan strategies and how they are to be coordinated and or implemented by either NCDOT, the City of Asheville, or the Burton Street Community Association. This chapter also outlines the Burton Street community priorities for strategy implementation as determined by a community survey that was done in May of this year. And with regards to the implementation timeline, NCDOT anticipates that the strategies that they are responsible for will be incorporated into the I-26 connector project commitments and contract for completion. So with that, are there any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
I don't have any questions. We've made you come here a lot, and I thank you I apologize, and I thank you for that. I appreciate, I see that the plan reflects some of the conversations that we've had, and particularly the language around implementation and engagement of the neighborhood and all of that. And I just want to say thank you for sort of hearing those concerns and addressing them in the final draft of the plan. Really appreciate it. Also to Todd for working to reference the comprehensive plan in here. I think that's really helpful. It makes it a stronger plan, linking it to bigger things. And then finally, just want to say again to the neighborhood leaders who are here, thank you all very much for your leadership and hard work. As I've said before, this is the matrix in the back of this plan about who's responsible for sort of implementing each of these strategies is it's a great summary. DOT's responsible for some, the city's responsible for some. I just think it's important for everybody to realize and really the neighborhood leaders, keep banging on our door and keep raising your hand and making sure that the city is moving in the direction that you want us to go to reach your goals. It's gonna need you to sort of be the squeaky wheel to keep these things, in the forefront of our work and our priorities. So I just hope you'll do that.
Yes, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions or comments? We do need to vote to adopt the plan.
You want a motion?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll make the motion if you want me to. Or do you want to do public comment?
Well, what we'll need is a motion to adopt, and then we'll take public comment.
Okay. I move to recommend that the Asheville City Council adopt the Burton Street Neighborhood Plan, and that the Plan 1 includes mitigation strategies related to the I-26 Connector Project. 2 was developed with community input and reflects the Burton Street neighborhood's vision for the future. 3 provides guidance on goals and strategies that aim to improve the neighborhood, and 4 aligns with the Living Asheville Comprehensive Plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. If there's anyone here wishing to comment on the motion to adopt this plan, this is your opportunity. You'll just need to state your name, and you'll have three minutes to speak. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this motion? Dwayne is getting up. Okay.
My name is Dwayne Barton. I'm a resident of the Burton Street community, and I would hope that we wouldn't have to be coming up here again trying to get y'all to support what we put in place like around 2010, 2009, and it sat on the shelf and collected a lot of dust. And with the, hopefully when it get adopted, it means like y'all gonna put some resources and some energy behind it. Because we know we, as a community, have been doing it for a long time, and we would like some help from the city and the county to make this plan a reality. When we see development happening on other parts of a town, South Slope in particular, where we had plans in place long before you start developing on that side of town, and like we still waiting. So I would hope that there's some process in place that would ensure that the plan becomes a reality soon, like we can start working on something like tomorrow and not have to wait another 10 years.
Thanks. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? All right, oh, yes.
I'm Vivian Conley, president of the Burton Street Association, and I'm a lifelong member of the Burton Street community. And I would just like to thank the DOT for coming up and saying we want to give something back to your community, because I think this is the 3rd time that our community has been inundated by highways and things, and it was a blessing to us to have someone to come and say we want to give something back to your community, because when the roads come through, it takes away people, houses, places, and a sense of the community, and it just keeps shrinking and shrinking. But this time, maybe that's it, and it gave us a better feeling to know that they not just going to come and take the land, but they were going to give something back, and the city and county getting involved to give something back to us and our community, because it does take a bit much to have your community houses, people moving and going away, and a sense of community. And we have a fabulous history, and we want to maintain that history. And with your help and all from the DOT, I think that we will continue to be the Burton Street community. And I just want to thank the DOT and the city of Asheville for all that you're going to do. But don't take 100 years to do it, please. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Margaret Fuller, and I'm standing on behalf of 3 women that are in our community that are range from 99 back up to 90. And I just want to say we would like for them to see some big changes before they leave this side, because they were the pillars of the community. We stand here and we talk, but we're stepping off of their shoulders. So, you know, we look forward to, and as I told Councilman Julie, this is just the beginning. This is just the first step. But we will be moving ahead, and we must ask for what we want because our tax base is outrageous. So our community service has to match our tax base. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, council, we have a motion. Any other questions or comments before we vote?
Just one other comment to the point of all three of those comments, and then what I said earlier. It might be the plan. I don't think prioritizes the improvements that and the strategies, and it might be helpful as a next step for the neighborhood association to do that and like come to the city and say these are of the 12 things that are, you know, that have an X by the city's name. These are the 3 we want you to do first, and we'd like to see them done in the next year. Something like that, just to give us some guidance on what your priorities are and how we can help best, you know, step off onto that path of getting it done. So.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much for coming down for this item. We have one other item of new business. That's a resolution authorizing a South Tunnel Road corridor study from Bowcatcher Tunnel to Swananoa River Road. And Badilla Sutka is going to talk to us about this item.
Can you transition me? Badilla Satvika with Planning and Urban Design. So I'm here tonight to run you through a presentation that is a new initiative that the Department of Planning and Urban Design are taking on with the Transportation Department, and we want your input. We've been working on this already for a little while, just while this is being loaded. It's already budgeted. In the current budget, we have been reviewing how we can improve the deliverance of new projects, because currently we do pretty big studies for transportation, but when it comes to funding projects, there's kind of a missing gap. So what the corridor studies... Okay, to big picture, we just finished 2 years of a comp plan, and it focuses on transitioning the city to have more of an urban pattern of development. So the image on the left shows the preferred growth scenario with the main corridors in the city, and all those corridors really, we have a vision of changing those to have more supportive land uses that are urban and corridors that do a little bit of what you see in the concept to the right, which is kind of clustering development in certain nodes. So first of all, very big picture, this is very simplistic, but what is a corridor study? We're looking at streets, how they're used, the land uses and the property that's around them within a limited area, typically about 1 to 2 miles. Our typical experience of a street is something like this, typically driving, but we want to highlight that we're looking on the roads at the whole right-of-way. So this includes sidewalks, access to property, and all of the users in between that have to do with moving people and goods. And that the purpose of the streets and corridors, of course, aren't just for the private automobile, but for the range of uses that you see here on the left, as well as, have some images here of development and supporting development. So the question is, how do we get from, what we have on our corridors, like 5-lane divideds, to different ideas of what we could have, whether they're boulevards or not, but how do we get there? Typically, this is our process. We have these large state goals and state plans that go then to the metropolitan long-term 20, 25-year vision plans, and then to prioritization of projects. But we have this missing gap. So the corridors plans hope to fill that missing step. So working with the MPO and the Transportation Department, we narrowed down the top 3 corridors for this first round of studies that both the city and the county are taking on. The county has agreed to take on Hendersonville Road. And so for us, it's these top 2, Patton Avenue or Tunnel Road. And I won't read through all these, but they each have strengths and weaknesses. And we sort of have moved down the direction going toward Tunnel Road, and PED supports that primarily because there are fewer hurdles and the traffic volumes are significantly lower, so that maybe the first project that we take on shouldn't be the biggest corridor in Asheville. So that's where we're looking for your guidance, and this is what the corridor study would look at. It's basically from Bowcatcher Tunnel to Swananoa River Road. It's 1.7.
So Padilla, you're saying the county has agreed to take on the Hendersonville Road corridor?
That's right.
And when you say you're looking for guidance, is that you're saying, are you on target picking Tunnel first rather than doing Patton Avenues?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Sorry, I could have been more clear. That's right. We're moving in the direction. PED supported the idea that we would look at do the first study for Tunnel Road, and so we're hoping to get your guidance and support for that. So this is a 1.7 mile segment. It's really close to downtown, just separated by this mountain on the left. So we would, of course, be looking at the road, the immediately adjacent commercial parcels, and then the affected neighborhoods. And because the study is primarily a transportation project, a lot of the part of the study looking at neighborhood plans and how we could support them would happen internally with the city staff. So these are some of the components that we would hope to have as deliverables, and we would launch this or get the RFP going immediately.
So the traffic volume for Tunnel is lower, you were saying is lower for Patton, is it?
It's about half.
Is it, so there seems so different, the section from the tunnel to I-240 versus the stretch that then goes onto the mall.
That's right. Yeah.
That's always.
Exactly. This is an average, right?
So,
south of that intersection is more like 22,000 cars. North of it's half of that. So
yeah.
Still, even if you take the highest volumes on Tunnel Road, there's still half of what we see on Patton Avenue.
So folks, we're being asked to sort of confirm this priority, which has already been talked about in PED, it sounds like, going with Tunnel before Patton. I know that East Asheville is anxious for us to take a good look at Tunnel, and there's a lot of change happening out on Tunnel, and I do wonder about, especially the traffic pattern from the tunnel to the highway, whether there's some great opportunities there to do something now so that it's redeveloped in a way that's a little more urban feeling, walkable, accessible, to bike ped, and all the different changes that are happening out there. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Anyone have any thoughts about this? Right direction, wrong direction, rather see Patton first?
I mean, I think what convinced PED to go with Tunnel Road is there's just so much that looks like it's going to happen very soon that we did not want to miss the chance to have a look at it before things changed and we wouldn't have a chance to go back and fix it. So that was really the biggest. I mean, each project has the pros and cons, and I think if we had all the resources in the world and all the money in the world, we'd probably want all of our corridors. But if we only have one choice, that was kind of how we landed.
And I would say, I know we're moving forward with the urban node rezonings, and we've got 2 of them on Patton, which I think will be critical as we see those properties start to turn over and get redeveloped. So kind of to hold that in place while we, I just don't want to feel like we're losing Patton altogether.
No.
And I think with that rezoning effort, we won't be.
I just also want to point out that we're, the MPO is paying the bulk of this cost. We all voted earlier this year to, I think, increase our dues to the MPO by a little bit, and we're getting a lot for that increased contribution.
So the MPO is a regional transportation body, so that means that surrounding communities' representatives have voted to help us prioritize a project in the city, so that's great collaboration.
Yeah. The other reason to choose Tunnel Road is that a piece of that segment from the tunnel to, I think, the mall is also a project that we are trying to get prioritized for funding in terms of access management. So, and that wouldn't be until, for about 5 years or so. And so if we can do this study and figure out the recommendations, then funding from DOT rather than from us could be pretty close behind that.
Because we'll have a project.
Because you'd have a plan.
Yeah.
We've already got a project in the pipeline. Yep.
Just one question. This is for Fadila and maybe Todd. Not dealing with Tunnel Road, actually with Hendersonville Road. So this is something the county's going to deal with. One of the questions I had for Todd last night when we were in West Asheville at a community meeting was, I'm pretty clear as to the process you guys are going to undertake, right? I mean, I think it's been beaten into everybody here, the importance of community meetings and talking to neighborhoods. I'm not sure if the county has done something similar. And so I'm wondering, particularly on the Hendersonville Road project, whether there's going to be any type of coordination between with the cities, with you all, with your offices and the county, just in terms of their ability to kind of pull this off. I realize it's not your problem, and so I'm not necessarily trying to put it on you, but knowing that I'm going to get these questions from some folks who live around there, I'm curious if you all know the answer to that or can help me out with any advice.
Sure. So, we're in the process now of negotiating, working with the MPO on the Tunnel Road RFP, and at the same time, we're waiting to receive the draft RFP for Hendersonville Road as well. In the meantime, we've been in contact with Buncombe County staff, Nate Pennington, the planning director there, just to kind of coordinate our efforts. So we'll, I guess, as we work on the RFP process, we'll try to determine whether Buncombe County can also allocate some of their resources to help us with the community engagement efforts for Hendersonville Road, just like Tunnel Road. But nonetheless, planning staff is available to do that, conduct that community engagement portion for Hendersonville Road as well, and to work with those neighborhoods in the same manner as we will for Tunnel Road.
And just in terms of understanding it, Todd, so is it my understanding, I could be wrong on this, the county's essentially going to take the Hendersonville Road project and the city's going to take the one we vote on tonight? Is that the concept? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And they'll be sort of going parallel. Their staff works on that one and our staff works on this one.
Parallel processes and then and parallel efforts, but planning staff will be available to conduct that neighborhood outreach for Hendersonville Road as well as Tunnel Road to develop some goals and strategies for those neighborhoods that have access to those corridors.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and Todd, our staff will be deeply involved in the Hendersonville Road project as well. I mean, that planning process, because that road is still in our city.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We're not just letting the county plan our roads.
Yeah, it's a team, it'll just be a team, larger team effort, and hopefully there's an opportunity for city staff to work a little bit more closely with county staff on that project.
Okay, any other?
Do you need a recommendation?
Do we need a vote on, are you just, yes, Maggie's saying vote on it.
Yeah,
Vote.
all right, I'm happy to make a motion.
Okay, please
Let's see, I move that we authorize the city manager to select the Tunnel Road, South Tunnel Road corridor for a corridor study and to direct staff to conduct a comprehensive review and analysis in order to enhance safety, multimodal transportation, and to recommend zoning changes to guide development that aligns with Living Asheville, the city's comprehensive plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a seconder. Is there anyone wishing to comment on the motion? Yes, please. Just state your name and you'll have 3 minutes.
called Red Moon Song. One thing I didn't hear about this is the fact that we're going to be facing a lot more emergency situations. And I noticed this downtown, for instance, when we lost some electricity and the lights went out. And people didn't really know how to drive with lights out. And I spent quite a bit of time in some working class cities in Mexico, and I was fascinated by their driving patterns because they would have the side streets would all be going one way or the other. So even kids going to school only had to look in one direction to see if they could cross or not, instead of having 4 ways with a light at each one. So I didn't know if that had been considered, or if people were even thinking of what we might be facing in the future and how we might be adapting our corridors or the transmodal, whatever we're doing. But I'm just considerate of that, and so I just wanted to mention it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to comment on the motion? Yes. Timothy Sadler.
Good evening, City Council, Madam Mayor. Actually, I'm glad that I didn't catch her name, but the last speaker mentioned that, because it really was dicey out there, driving down Hendersonville Road without any traffic lights. And I think it is something to really take a look at. I mean, is there a way that we could back up with solar power in that scenario? And I just kind of wanted to offer that.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this motion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. That concludes our printed agenda. We actually have probably a pretty long closed session tonight. Because we are going to be working through the city manager selection process and trying to get through to the next phase. But this is an opportunity for the public to comment on items that are not on our agenda. If you would like to, I don't have anyone signed up to speak tonight. I think that's a first ever. But if you would like to speak, this is your opportunity. You have 3 minutes, and please state your name. Is there anyone wishing to speak?
Oh, that's okay.
You don't have to sign up. You could come on for it.
Hey there, I'm Carolyn Anderson, and I'm the chair of the Western North Carolina Renewables Coalition. We have written a letter to you regarding the hiring of the city manager, and I didn't have time today to prepare any short talk about it in addition to this, so I'm just going to read you the letter, and then I'm going to give it to you guys to take home and read over it. Okay. I hope you had an opportunity to read Scott Hardinieri's beautiful letter to you earlier today. If you haven't read it, I'd really recommend it. It's beautiful. Very much along the lines of what we're going to ask of you. The Western North Carolina Renewables Coalition requests that City Council hire a city manager who has expertise and experience in sustainability. We request that you hire the person who best demonstrates the understanding that sustainability infuses all aspects of living Asheville's comprehensive plan for our future, that it affects public health and safety, economic resilience, equal access to opportunity, affordable housing, education, and the city's financial health. We ask that you look forward to a city with 16% more people than it currently has, and anticipate how each candidate can ride the incoming wave in a way that reduces energy costs, prevents higher carbon emissions, and still allows all existing inhabitants to thrive equally. The person you select must be someone who can oversee staff across the city departments and expect that they equally carry the responsibility for helping the city meet the sustainability goals we have already committed to in the Living Asheville Plan. We are asking that you hire someone who will help Asheville transition to clean, renewable energy by funding and adding staff to our sustainability department. Someone who can maintain a comprehensive and intersectional view of the challenges this transition will present, who will imbue in all employees of the City of Asheville the confidence that it can be done, who seeks solutions for navigating the transition with a cohesive, harmonious, inclusive vision for our future. It is critical that whoever takes on the position of city manager be a leader and a champion of Asheville's effort to move toward a sustainable and resilient city as we face increasingly damaging climate change-driven weather events. The more we plan for these eventualities, the faster we transition away from fossil fuel and into localized energy sources, the less traumatic and challenging these events will be. Asheville has the opportunity to marry leadership in city management with leadership in renewable energy. We owe it to the future to make this happen. It is our understanding that there are several candidates who meet this criteria, and we urge the City Council to hire the best of these candidates. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hello, Council and Mayor. My name is Ashley Cooper. I just want to thank you for the extended budget process that's happening, and particularly that detailed information that's been added since the last session. I find that extremely helpful to get to see how money is being spent in each department. I would like to ask that included in that is some details around contracted services. It seems like that's a huge number, and so to better understand how that money is being spent, is there some better ways that that could be approached, maybe between departments? I also want to acknowledge that y'all are one of the largest funders and employers in this town, which you know, and this aspect of unemployment, I know I've emailed you about this, and the mayor was kind to send me the North Carolina Leadership Forum document that explains that there's 6 tiers of unemployment. And when we talk about unemployment, we're talking about U3, but U6 includes total, and so for the state of North Carolina, U6 is twice as large as U3, and that includes total unemployed plus all marginally attached workers plus total employed part-time for economic reasons plus a percent of the labor force that are marginally attached workers. So there's probably equal, if not different numbers in Asheville of this U6 category of people who are not working, therefore not able to support themselves and so their families. And I'm just wondering about y'all as the largest employer, and as you're thinking about this budget cycle, how you're thinking about both continuing to treat and the benefits and the payments of your employees really well, but also cultivating more opportunities for this category of workers who they don't match all of the, there's a lot of the high-skilled jobs that we're hearing about that people have a hard time finding. So yes, there's skill development for those jobs that are needed, but there's also new jobs that are needed. And like leaving the Finance Committee, hearing the police department and the education that they do around DWIs, and just are there more places where young people and going to early college and different things where folks could be using their skill set of being a resident here and being knowledgeable about this community, but that y'all could be creating employment opportunities. And so I just want you to be thinking about that as you're thinking about the budget. And then I also wanted to just ask in the budget process if there's a way to be including the grants that each department is getting also, because that's a whole nother part of the big picture to understand what money is coming in and what outside sources are funding city departments. So thank you for all of that, and let's keep doing. And when is the community input part of the budget process would be very valuable for us to know about. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Wainscott. A couple months ago, I saw an article in the Citizen Times talking about the effect of district voting on the African American community. I started, pouring through all of the data available at the Buncombe County elections, and I found a lot of interesting things I can't cover in 3 minutes. One of the most disturbing things that I found was, of course, more evidence of gentrification. This was brought up by Barbara Whithorn, I believe, a couple weeks ago, showing, I think that she had said that the African American population has dwindled from 17% in 2000, 12% these days. That is reflected in the voter registration between March of 2015 and June of 2017. We've seen an increase of voter registration by whites an increase of about 19 per week, with a decrease in African American voters by 2 per week. So it's quite a big problem. Obviously, gentrification's got a lot of reasons why it's happening, and not the least of which is our $17 million Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority hotel tax. $17 million a year, which is roughly half of the amount of money the Asheville City School Systems spends. There's been a lot of talk about equity and inclusion. We've got an equity manager to look at all of our policies through an equity lens. I sent you guys a link to the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority Contact Us page that shows the staff, as far as I can see, of that quasi-governmental agency to be 24 people, all of them white, all of them. There's not one person of color on the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority. And then the board that oversees that is 11 people with only one person of color on that, and we only have one person on city council who can be there, and Julie Mayfield is there. So as we're looking at equity and inclusion, you've talked about the need of being at the table. We have no African Americans, we have no people of color at the table. $17 million being spent to attract affluent people here, causing gentrification. As we turn to looking at the selection of our manager, I would like to also note that Kit Kramer has been appointed to be on the panel. She's the president of the Chamber of Commerce. Again, that's a staff of 22 people, and the only person that I've found of a person of color on their website is the building supervisor. And I think that's just a shame that that level of influence across town is there's just such a dearth of people of color participating in that process. So that's all I came to talk about tonight. Thanks.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, we have a closed session, so we have a motion.
I move the Asheville City Council go into closed session for the following reasons: to prevent disclosure of information that is privileged and confidential pursuant to the laws of North Carolina, or not considered of public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statutes. The law that makes information privileged and confidential is North Carolina General Statute 143 through 318, 10A3. The statutory authorization is contained in North Carolina General Statute 143 through 318, 11A1. To consult with an attorney employed by the city about matters with respect to which the attorney-client privilege between the city and its attorney must be preserved, including but not limited to a lawsuit or potential lawsuit involving the following parties: James Robert West versus City of Asheville. The statutory authorization is contained in North Carolina General Statute 143 through 318, 11A3. To consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, or conditions of appointment of an individual public officer or employee, the statutory authorization is contained in North Carolina General Statute 143 through 318, 11A6. And to prevent the disclosure of information that is confidential pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 160A through 168, the Personnel Privacy Act. Statutory authorization is contained in North Carolina General Statute 143 through 318, 11A1.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will adjourn from the closed session.